$1 million. Free to play. You just need to survive. It's the Fanatics NFL Survivor Pool. Pick one team to win each week. Get it right, move on. Get it wrong, you're out. The last fan standing take home a guaranteed $1 million cash prize. And for every player who joins, we add $1 to the pot, up to $10 million. The Fanatics NFL Survivor Pool. Play free on the Fanatics app. App access open to all. Must be 21 plus and joined by 9/8 to play. No purchase necessary. U.S. only. Void where prohibited. Subject to complete terms. See fanatics.com/game rules.
Talk about stepping up. Bang! Bang!
It's time to level up your game. Introducing the all-new ESPN app. All of ESPN, all in one place. Your home for the most live sports and the best championship moments.
The electricity is palpable.
Step up your game with no annual contract required. It's the ultimate fan experience. Level up for more on the ESPN app or at stream.espn.com. Sign up now.
The Roses were living the dream.
To you, my darling.
No, to you.
Until it all came crashing down.
You got fired.
Fired?
Now in theaters. Stop.
You stop!
And see The Roses. Rated R. Now playing in theaters everywhere. EVO.
Welcome back to The Devil Within. This is episode 2 of our Denver Confidential series in honor of CrimeCon 2025 in the great city of Denver, Colorado. If you're going to be there, it's September 5th through the 7th. Come check out the world premiere of my show, Let the Devil In. Stop by the MGM Plus booth and, say hey. I'd love to meet you. Until then, on with the show. This is Chapter 4, The Fitzsimons Apparition. So some ghosts are content to rattle chains, others prefer to linger in the corners of photographs, fading just before your brain catches up. And then there are the ones who never left the job. Welcome to the Fitzsimons Army Medical Center. Now, once this place was the beating heart of military medicine in the American West. But now, decades later, it's just a quiet stretch of government offices and medical campuses, and they're all stitched together with sidewalks that never quite match, and architecture that's always just a little out of step with itself. But Fitzsimons wasn't always this tame. Back in the 1940s, it was a bustling Army hospital with the grim honor of treating the worst of the worst injuries from both the Pacific and the European theaters. Amputations, gas burns, shell shock, and in one wing, a long-forgotten isolation ward, known, charmingly, as the Last Stop. Now, they didn't put that name on any map, and you only ever heard it whispered in the mess hall or maybe muttered by an orderly too tired to lie anymore. It was where they sent the ones they couldn't help. And that's where the haunting begins. So the story goes like this. In 1943, a nurse named Agnes, last name redacted, naturally, Agnes worked night shifts in the isolation ward. And her co-workers said she had a habit of humming old Appalachian lullabies, even when no one else was around. In fact, especially when no one else was around. And one evening, Agnes simply vanished. No one saw her leave. Her coat was still on the hook. Her shift had just started. And the only clue was a trail of bloody footprints leading from the ward to the old elevator. And it wasn't from a patient because everybody was accounted for. And it wasn't from Agnes because her shoes were found neatly placed right beneath her locker. It was as if she'd simply stepped out of them and disappeared. Now, that old elevator, it hasn't worked since. And every attempt to repair it ends in failure, often electrical and sometimes violent failure. One mechanic said he saw something in the shaft. He refused to elaborate and put in for a transfer the next day. And yet, people still hear the humming, late at night, in the lowest levels of the complex. Sometimes coming from behind locked doors, sometimes from empty hallways, but always the same lullaby. All the pretty little horses. But Agnes isn't the only ghost wandering these halls. Several former patients, now elderly, have come back in recent years, driven either by nostalgia or guilt, probably some complicated cocktail of the two. But more than one has claimed to see their former doctors unchanged after 70 years. Same coat, same walk, same expression of weary detachment. One man, former patient, 93 years old, he was a POW, he swears he saw Dr. Klemke, his orthopedic surgeon, walking through a closed wing in 2018. Now the problem was that Klemke died in 1955, and his body was buried with full honors, or so the Army says. But really, let's talk about the morgue, because of course there's a morgue. It's a hospital. But the one at Fitzsimons is buried deeper than most. It's 3 floors underground. And it's beneath what used to be the psychiatric wing. Because, of course it is. Now, no official blueprints show this level, and no one seems to know who built it. But it's there. And if you believe the urban legends, and sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but this one I do, then the morgue is still active. Because recent security footage, has shown doors opening by themselves. Equipment that was decommissioned in the 1970s powers on for no reason. A refrigerator unit, unplugged for decades, once registered a sudden drop to 36 degrees during a full moon. Really. It stayed that way for 12 minutes, then it climbed back up to ambient temperature. Like, nothing happened. What makes Fitzsimons different from your average haunted asylum or abandoned hospital is that it's not abandoned. Not entirely. Parts of it are still in use by government contractors, by the University of Colorado, and most cryptically by medical research initiatives with no website, no listed phone number. The kind of initiatives that require badge access and biometric scans, and the occasional black SUV parked overnight in the parking lot. I'm not saying it's a cover-up. I'm saying they paved over something old and sacred and sick, and they expected it to behave, and it hasn't. A nurse hums lullabies in the dark. A doctor who should be boned still makes his rounds. Come on. And somewhere deep below Denver, there's a room colder than death, waiting to be noticed again. So if you're ever in Aurora and someone offers you a tour of the old hospital wings, say thank you politely and then keep walking. This is Chapter 5, The Demon of River North. Some stories begin with a haunting. Others begin with a crime. This one starts with kombucha and it ends in hell. Welcome to River North. RiNo, if you're trying to sell a condo there. It's the kind of Denver neighborhood where old warehouses have been gutted, painted in murals, and reborn as craft coffee joints and open concept breweries. A place where you can buy a $12 IPA made with basil foam, served on a plank of reclaimed wood while sitting in a building that once processed livestock. Which is a detail that doesn't seem to bother anyone, by the way. But River North was not always riverside yuppie paradise. Long before the breweries, it was home to stockyards and slaughterhouses. And something that the old-timers still won't talk about unless you pour them something stiffer than an IPA. They call it the RiNo Demon. A name that sounds ridiculous, yes, like something invented by one of those tattooed baristas on mushrooms. But the people who lived there in the 60s and 70s, before it was trendy, before the gentrification, before the murals, they say there was something wrong with the ground itself and the bodies that were buried in it. The story goes that one winter in 1967, the snow didn't melt. And not just in one spot. A 6-block stretch of industrial land stayed frozen for 119 days. Dogs wouldn't walk over it, birds wouldn't land on it. And anyone who tried to dig into it, contractors or electricians or city workers, either quit or got sick. 2 men developed what was later described as sudden onset catatonia, a phrase that doesn't appear in any modern medical journal. The only thing unearthed during those 119 days was a stone slab, rough-hewn, unmarked, but warm to the touch. The slab was moved to a municipal storage facility. 6 days later, the facility burned down, and no cause was ever found. Insurance called it an act of God. The area was eventually developed, of course, because no city planner has ever let a little thing like paranormal dread get in the way of mixed-use zoning. Fast forward to the early 2000s, and suddenly RiNo's the next big thing. Cafes sprout like weeds, breweries every other corner, murals of endangered frogs painted on the sides of hookah lounges. But strange things kept happening. A barista at an out-defunct espresso bar swears he saw a man walk out of the wall one morning before opening. Not through a door, through the wall. He said the man was soaking wet as if he'd just gotten out of the shower, but it hadn't been raining there, not in weeks. Another witness, a real estate agent, claimed a potential buyer ran screaming from a newly converted loft after hearing what she described as something growling from the sink. And she never came back. The unit was relisted, quietly. Then there was the brewery. It was called the Red Ember, housed in one of those original 19th century meatpacking plants. Beautiful space, exposed brick, skeletons in the concrete. During its 2-year run, 5 employees quit, citing intolerable whispering. 3 experienced severe night terrors, and 1 was institutionalized. The most famous incident involved the head brewer who carved the phrase, "I've seen its eyes," into the back of a fermentation tank before he disappeared. He was found 4 days later, naked, dehydrated, and hiding in a drainage culvert near the Platte River. His only comment to police, it wasn't a hallucination. So the brewery closed, the building was sold. It's now a boutique kombucha shop with a minimalist aesthetic and a deeply unsettling echo. If you stand in the back room near the old freight elevator and whisper anything, your name, your order, the phrase, "I've seen its eyes," it'll be repeated. Not immediately, not loudly, but whispered back by something that isn't you.
What if buying a new appliance felt like a win for your home and your wallet? Save up to 50%, plus up to an extra $600 on select major appliances at the Best Buy Appliances Labor Day sale. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy, imagine that.
Claptrap here. 2 big things are coming this fall. Borderlands 4 and Spotify Wrapped. So stop listening to that one playlist that reminds you of your ex who only made you cry. Talking about you, Veronica. And pre-order Borderlands 4, coming out September 12th.
Rated mature.
Breathe deep. Imagine your legs more limber in Duluth Trading Double Flex Denim. Envision euphorically squatting for that can of suds. Bending for your toolbox in a state of bliss. Lunging for your laser level on a whole new level. Relax and allow the flex to fill you with ability. Find your inner flex in Double Flex Denim only at Duluth Trading.
Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
Is this all urban legend? Possibly. Is it all marketing? Maybe. But let's consider something a little older. Native tribes in the region avoided the River North Corridor long before it was called anything. Cheyenne oral history refers to a shadowed place along the water where the deer are silent and the wind brings faces. A place of sacrifice, a place of blood, of those who walk backward. No murals mention this part, of course. It doesn't pair well with the artisanal mustard. So what is the RiNo demon? Is it a restless spirit of industrial cruelty? A residual haunting soaked into century-old bricks? A malevolent entity disturbed by developers who mistook it for opportunity? Or is it simply the price of ignoring what came before? Whatever the answer, one thing is certain. In River North, things come back. Not as they were, but close enough to fool you. And please, if you hear your voice repeated, don't answer. That's how it finds you. This is Chapter 6, The Children Beneath Colfax. Colfax Avenue has always been a mess. Depending on who you ask, it's either the longest continuous street in America or just a 26-mile artery of neon-lit weirdness that slices Denver right in half. At one end, you've got strip clubs with names like the Sahara. At the other, a pawn shop where you can buy a used trumpet and a samurai sword. It is, without exaggeration, the most haunted stretch of asphalt west of the Mississippi. Which brings us to the children. Because while Colfax has seen its share of human tragedies, drugs and violence and broken families, some say the deepest scars are beneath it. Literally beneath it. In the early 1900s, Denver, like many booming American cities, had a problem. Orphans, or more precisely, children no one wanted to claim. Kids who aged out of foster homes, kids whose parents died from tuberculosis, any kid who simply vanished into the bureaucracy. The city of Denver's solution was a network of informal shelters, many of which were built into basements and sublevels beneath the Colfax corridor. These weren't homes, mind you. They were holding cells, concrete bunkers with cots and bars, out of sight and very much out of mind. The most infamous was called St. Erasmus House. Operated by a local Catholic diocese, St. Erasmus began as a mission for wayward boys and evolved into something far darker. According to Denver Post archives, at least 12 children died there between 1908 and 1919 of illness, neglect, and in at least one case, starvation. But here's where things get strange. The building that once housed St. Erasmus was eventually demolished, and in its place was a parking lot. But construction workers reported something was off. Tools went missing, machinery malfunctioned, and one foreman claimed to see, quote, a line of barefoot children walking across the lot in the early morning fog. Now, he was alone at the time, but the pavement cracked and warped within weeks of being poured. Crews were brought back in to level it 3 separate times. One of the original blueprints, recovered from city archives, had this note scrawled in pencil across the foundation section. It read, quote, leave the south wall untouched. That's where they kept them. Now, of course, we all love a good ghost story, especially one that wraps civic failure in gothic mystique. But in this case, the stories kept piling up. In the 1970s, a dive bar called Miller's Crawl Space opened across the street. Yes, the name alone should have raised red flags, but regulars reported cold drafts blowing up from the floorboards, voices, high-pitched sing-song voices, echoing from the bathroom stalls. One bartender quit after allegedly seeing handprints form in the dust on the mirror while she was cleaning it. Then there's the bus driver. In 1993, RTD Route 15, which runs along the Colfax corridor, hit a patch of road so cold it cracked the axle of a city bus on a 72-degree beautiful spring day. The driver, a man named Greg, swore the road looked like it was sweating. He later claimed that just before the bus stalled, he saw 3 kids in the median, motionless and staring. No one else saw them, but again, no one else was there. The footage from the dash cam was erased. According to the RTD tech, it was magnetized. So today, Colfax is still weird. It's still pulsing with late-night energy. But under the murals, under the dive bars and dispensaries and vape lounges, there's something else. There's something older. Something that might still be pacing the concrete bunkers Denver forgot it ever built. They say if you're walking down East Colfax just after 3 a.m., When you stop outside the old pawn shop with the barred windows and the flickering neon, you might hear laughter. Faint, childlike laughter coming from the storm drain. Don't look. Just keep walking. And whatever you do, don't say your name out loud. Thanks for joining us again on The Devil Within. If this story gave you pause or made you think twice about your next midnight walk, leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And please follow us on Instagram at The Devil Within Pod for more twisted tales from the margins. And if you have your own story you'd like to share, email me at info@evocreative.com. I'd love to hear from you. And with that, we wrap our journey through the paranormal underbelly of Denver. But don't worry, evil doesn't honor city limits. We'll be back. New towns, new cities, new horrors, same old devil. Hope to see you in Denver September 5th through 7th at CrimeCon. Until next time, lock your doors, question the shadows, and don't believe anything that knocks. The Devil Within is an EVO production, recorded live at Bel Air Studios in Los Angeles, California. For The Devil Within, I'm your writer and host, Brandon Morgan. Until next time, stay safe out there.